Hey Ryan, do you remember last week we said we would speak this week about Thomas Piketty and capital and ideology. I told you I wrote a short essay on this book. I will link it to our conversation. And well, preparing this conversation, I read something I think you will enjoy. Do you let me reading this?
Please.
Okay, this is Spanish. I will translate to English. Well, Piketty says that the idea according to which Western democracies' values have reached a sort of perfection that he considers that is a little bit nonsense. Do you really think our democracies are nonsense systems?
I certainly don't think they're nonsense, but that statement that he said, that people think that Western societies have reached perfection, I don't know a single person who claims that the West is perfect.
No, I think that democracy is perfect because we consider it is not perfect.
Yeah.
There is not one single individual or social group holding the truth. I think the truth is always provisional, scientific knowledge. And this applied to politics is what a modern democracy is. Well, perhaps it is not surprising that he says that China is not a communist country.
Okay, yeah, that's not surprising. I don't think anything he will say will be very surprising, but okay.
We have to admit what China is. China is the first or the second power in the world. And well, Piketty says that private property represents a 70% of wealth in China.
Okay.
So
he says that, or is that's true? Is that true? Does he back that up with?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the book.
Okay.
I bought it and I read it last summer.
Yeah.
And it says that this is something remarkable as well. Piketty and his team, because he's not the only author of the book. He has a lot of people with a lot of resources working on research, and they base the whole content of the book in this research.
Yeah.
So they try to separate opinions from scientific knowledge.
Okay.
And yes, he says that 70% of property is private in China. But I could say that a 50% of property in Spain is public. For instance, or wealth.
Oh, well, okay, when you say, but that's...
Wealth more better than, he says property. I said property should be wealth. What I mean is that our economies, our systems are hybrid.
Yeah.
There is something public and private. I don't think we have a political system in the world 100% based on public and 100% based on private.
No, even the most extreme, well, let's not say extreme, but even some far public or private countries are, none of them are 100%.
Well, perhaps the USSR, it was 100% public, and it, as we know, it did.
Oh, I don't know what's happening in North Korea, but I don't think there's a lot of private property and wealth there.
That's not a must follow.
Okay, that's fair.
So about China, not communist, and he says, but not capitalist. And by the way, what for you, for young people, I have my ages, but for you, for young people, what do you represent in your minds that capital or capitalism is?
Okay, that's a good question, because it's a word now that we hear very often, and I'm sure we all use it very often as well. But I suppose, well, capital, the way I look at capital is just extra money, in the sense that, of course, everyone has some money, but then it needs to be spent on your rent or your food or whatever you may need to buy. But then capital would be this extra money that you could use to generate more money. You could invest, buy property,
money or assets.
Or assets, correct, yes. No, you buy property and then that can make you money.
So money represents clearly what a capitalist system is.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
But money is as old as our states are, or our civilization even.
Yeah.
So perhaps it is well rooted as well in our beings, in how we are. It is something artificial, of course. Well, not so artificial. In some moments of history, shells, for instance, something natural, was considered money.
Yeah, it represents value, right? We all agree that it has a certain value to it, and that way we can trade it, and everyone's happy.
I was reading some days ago Aristotle,
okay.
And I was shocked when I saw we could speak about this a different day, how clear he had, or Greeks had in those days, 2,000 years ago, 2,300 years ago, the economy, and how to value things.
Okay.
Things for them were surprisingly clear, much more than I could think.
Oh, wow.
Well, economy comes from Greek, you know.
Well, I know now.
Well, now, you know, it's the name of how to manage your own house.
Is that right? Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting.
And I was surprised. Yes, but someday we can speak about money.
Definitely.
And we spoke about digital money, remember, in the first release.
I certainly do.
But perhaps we didn't go very deep about the nature of money. It could be interesting.
Definitely.
But let's go back to the point.
Yeah, back to Piketty and the book, or?
And I want to ask you something more. First of all, you remember we spoke last week about the social contract.
Yes.
If we are doing things well, more or less, why must we change what is working? Let's evaluate it. Let's think about how to make it better, to improve it.
Of course.
But not have to change it 100%.
Yeah, no radical change. No, we're all for progress. We all want to progress in the right direction, but we want to be careful with radical changes.
Yes. So we saw that in the Great Reset, in some point, the authors were proposing this big change, the social contract. We spoke about if we change the social contract contained mainly in our constitutions, we citizens must say yes.
Yeah.
But it must come from us. But Piketty goes back to the topic, and he speaks or writes again about social contract, and that same idea than the idea we spoke about last week in the Great Reset. Perhaps we should change the system, have deep change, because if not, we have the threat of violence. And he says the violence we knew in Europe and in the whole world in the 20th century with the 2 world wars.
Yeah.
And why? Because he shows, or he thinks, that this capitalism you mentioned before, something differentiated from labor. He opposes capital or capitalism and labor, employees. He says that especially people that don't have capital, people that their only wealth is working, the proletariat, according to Karl Marx, they are falling in inequality.
Yeah, that's his main argument, right? No, that the people with money will just get richer, and that the gap between the rich and the poor will just continue to grow until there is, what he says, until, what did he say? Yeah, as you said, it'll turn into violence, is the point he was making, that it will be the end of the world as we know it.
Do you see in the streets this big increase of inequality, or in your normal life?
As I'm going about day by day, I don't see it. I don't see it firsthand anyway. That's not to say it's not there. I don't know, but I certainly don't notice it in my daily life.
Salaries for young people are not huge. I mean, perhaps yes, earning more than 1,000 euros a month for a lot of young people that go out from university or from school to work, getting a higher salary is not an easy task.
No, certainly not easy.
And perhaps in that point he's right. We consider that this is something normal. We have lost the expectancy our fathers had, fathers and mothers. Parents,
make it easier.
Parents, yes. They had to improve in their lives.
Yeah.
They knew that with sacrifice, they could increase step by step and finally reach a good skill, a good level. But perhaps we have lost this possibility of improving in our lives, especially young people. And it's hard living with such, not even small. We know that we have even lower salaries. But what worries me is that perhaps we can take that for something normal.
Okay. No, you're right. This has become accepted, I think, in today's society, or in young people. They're like, well, that's just the way it is.
Well, things can go well or not, but at least you need that incentive in life to think things will go better.
Yes, no, of course. Yeah, but I mean, I think that incentive still is there to some degree. Maybe it's not so clear, but I think everyone does believe that if you do work hard and you do play your cards right, that you can end up, in a good place or with a good job or whatever it may be.
Well, but they send us a different warning. If you young people succeed founding a company and you get a lot of money, then you are not doing things properly either.
Correct. Yeah, that's his idea, right? That's because that's his proposed solution to this is a global wealth tax, right? Like 60-70% or something.
How?
60 or 70%. That's what I read.
Only
60 to 70.
That's very low. In the USA, and in UK, we mentioned this 7 days ago. In the years of the New Deal of Roosevelt and after Second World War, the average tax rate was close to 90%. So only 60%.
Only.
Well, perhaps if you get 2 million a year, well, okay, it's fine, 60 or even 70. It depends on your income.
Yeah, and of course, and I would imagine, well, actually, I don't know, but I imagine that's at the highest tax bracket.
As you know, our tax systems are progressive. The more you get, the more you pay.
Yeah, most of the time. No, there are certain states and certain countries that just have a flat rate. In Andorra, right? That's why all the YouTubers move there, because it's just a standard rate of 10% income tax, as opposed to the up to 45% here in Spain.
And that's a different topic.
yeah, it's a topic for another day.
To move to Andorra, if we pay,
we'd be able to continue these conversations at least via Zoom.
I pay my taxes in Spain. I don't have the capacity to move to Andorra. Yeah. But well, I was going to say before that, speaking about tax rates, 60, 50, 80, 90, 0. In the end, values and fairness are so close to this topic. Not only close, are part of the topic.
Oh yeah, part, yeah, exactly, definitely part.
And I think in that decision of moving to a different jurisdiction to pay less taxes, there is as well not only an economic and rational decision. There is a decision linked to values and linked to what you want to give back to the society in which you generate your benefit. So I'm sure that in some cases it could be rational, changing the place in which you pay, but in other cases, I think it doesn't make sense changing just to save a few thousands euros.
Yeah, or a couple of percent. Yeah, I don't think anybody would do that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I give you my opinion, what I would do if it was my case. That is not. But and even your reputation as a YouTuber or a football player.
It's true.
But no, it has a lot to do with Piketty, because he wants to set at the same time a global tax, you mentioned, to control as well the flows of money all over the world. To offshore jurisdictions, I don't say Andorra is, but to some others in the world, because there are big amounts of black money moving from one country to another, not to pay less, not to pay anything.
Yeah, I know.
And even we have the cases of some big technological companies in your country. They said in Ireland not to pay taxes, and with some artificial tricks,
loopholes, is what they say. They get away with
generate a lot of money. They pay nothing in Europe, and then the money goes back to the countries of origin of these societies. We all know the names. Well, I think more or less in 15 or 20 minutes, this is a brief exposition of the content of the book, but there is much more to speak about this.
I'm sure, but at least just a general idea, at least is good, are the main arguments, and then of course there's more details to it as always, but to have it clear.
For next week, we will speak about how democracies die. We're speaking about our democracies, and if you like this topic, this could be interesting for next week.
Sounds good. I'll do my research.
I will finish the book.
Oh yeah.